I'd like to first acknowledge that the resort municipality of Whistler is grateful to be on the shared, unceded territory of the Lil'wat people, known in their language as Lil'wato, and the Squamish people, known in their language as Snohomish. We respect and commit to a deep consideration of their history, culture, stewardship, and voice. I'm sure most of you are expecting Mayor Crompton to be here. I am acting mayor at the moment, and Jack's oldest daughter is graduating high school tonight, and the ceremony is tonight. So you have the backup quarterback starting the game tonight. For my feelings, please try and hide your disappointment that Jack isn't here. I know he's everyone's favorite. Thanks so much to all of you for taking the time to come out. It is a beautiful evening, and I know it takes commitment to your town to come out when you could be out enjoying the mountain bike trails. Believe me, I know how hard it is to pull yourself away when the weather is like this, and our town is so fun to have fun in. Your participation in these events can't be overestimated, and the value of your contribution is tremendous to us, and we take it very seriously. We have other members of council here tonight. I know, and forgive me if anyone is here that I haven't mentioned, but Jen Ford is here and Arthur De Jong is here, and I'm sure we'll hear from the others when they arrive. Also, I should remark that Freeman of Whistler, Gary Watson, is here. Forgive me if any other people that have the freedom of the municipality are here, but yeah, Gary was the first and only one that I noticed so far. Welcome. Our Chief Administrative Officer, Jeannie Cullen, is here and will address the group shortly. I would also like to introduce you to Brenna Antikov. Brenna is from Rios Partners, and you will probably recognize her from the other community open houses that we had that were so well run, I thought, and so well attended by the community. So welcome, Brenna. We're so delighted to have you here. She's going to be our leader and guide through this. So listen to Brenna. Kristen Panneton is our technical host. She's the communications officer for the Resort Municipality of Whistler. She'll be taking care of the technical aspects of the meeting, such as the polls and the breakout rooms. Thank you, Kristen. A variety of other presenters and staff will be introduced as we go through the meeting. I'm looking forward to being part of the discussions and hearing the ideas and input that we share this evening. This is a super important part of the planning process. I know I said it already, but your value to this and the contribution that you make in evenings like this and subsequent ones moving forward are critical to the development of what is one of the last pieces of development in the valley. So I hope we express our gratitude enough. With that, I believe it is Ms. Cullen, our CAO, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Ralph. Hi, everyone. It's been a while since we gathered in this type of meeting. I think Ralph mentioned that last time when we hosted a meeting like this, it was the community conversations last July that Brenna helped us through. And we were steeped in understanding how the pandemic was being experienced. And little did we know that we would somewhat still be doing that now. However, hopefully still on the other side of it. So it feels good to be able to have a conversation about our future after being consumed with what for many of us were urgent and immediate matters during the COVID response and recovery over the past year. It's also great to see everyone in the numbers here and to know that people are keen and engaged in providing input to this important project. So thank you for that. For those of you who don't know or haven't met me before, I joined the RMOW as CAO in April of last year. And it has been an interesting year to say the least. But through all the challenges that we've had in our community, I can say that I'm continually blown away by the commitment, drive, creativity, and caring that really does define Whistler as a town. So while the road to recovery is still ahead of us, there's a lot of work to do, but it's a positive step to be able to be here today to start a dialogue with all of you and the community about the future. So to get very clear on why are we here, I think I need a slide actually for this. Just advance forward a couple more. There we go. So the purpose of this open house is to introduce the project and the RMOW and applicant team to all of you, to share information about the process that we will be going through, and then to elicit input from community members regarding the community values, priorities, and guiding principles that have been drafted for this project. So kudos for all of you for understanding this is a really important time to be engaging and providing input, which is right at the beginning. Thank you for being here. I look forward to sharing ideas in smaller groups with some of you this evening. And I will now pass it over to our new manager, new as in started in December, Manager of Resort Experience, Jesse Gressley-Jones, who will get us oriented on who is here this evening. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you, Jenny. So welcome, everyone. And yeah, as Jenny said, I'm Jesse Gressley-Jones. I'm the new General Manager for Resort Experience. And I joined in December in the middle of a global pandemic, which is quite an interesting time to move towns. So I have been getting up to speed in that time, but I'm really excited for tonight to be able to have a chance, even by Zoom, to get to engage with the community and have a really great, hopefully inspiring conversation about the future of this site. So we wanted to just touch base a little bit on who is here tonight, who's involved, and what are the types of roles that are going to be played. So we have a really large team from the RMOW here. They are going to be facilitating each of the breakout rooms later in the evening. And so RMOW staff provide guidance on planning, on engineering, transportation, housing, parks, and amenities. They're in many ways the subject matter experts of the broad tasks that we carry out at Municipal Hall. We also consider the community's interest in assessing the rezoning proposal as it advances. And our job is to communicate well and communicate often with the community. The other group here with us tonight is the applicant team. And for this site, that is BD Living. So their job here is to work with RMLW staff, to work within our policy context, and to work with the community to generate and refine development concepts as we move through this process. And then most importantly tonight, we have the community, all of you. So we are really looking forward to hearing your thoughts on helping create and shape the guiding principles of this site and participate in a process that we hope will be exciting and that all of you can see yourselves being part of this site in future years to come. So we're looking forward to the conversation. You'll get to know all of our team members later in the night when we jump into breakout rooms for some really great conversations. And with that, I am going to pass it over to the BD team, who are going to tell you a little bit about themselves.
Good evening. BD is very excited to be here tonight to listen and learn about community ideas and priorities, as well as introduce the guiding principles for our master plan process with the RMOW and community. My name is Curtis Neeser, Vice President of Development for BD Living, and joining me is Nicholas Dollywell, Development Manager for BD Living. Good evening, everybody. Along with other members from our team, we're incredibly excited to take this first step together with the RMOW and community to begin the public consultation process. Next slide, please. BD's 67-year legacy started in 1954 by Keith Beattie. The above building was the first building he built and was initially built as storage for his tools, where he promptly received an offer to sell the building. That led to the start of Beattie as a builder and developer. Fast forward into the late 60s, Mr. Beattie used to build the P&E show homes, and over time in the 60s and 70s evolved into industrial development. Keith's son, Ryan Beattie, joined the business in the early 90s and has led substantial growth in our industrial business across BC, as well as expanded into new markets in Alberta and Ontario. Today, we are one of Western Canada's largest residential and industrial developers. BD Living was launched in the late 2000s to help diversify us and has since completed many successful projects, a few of which we'll touch on tonight. It's important to note many of us enjoy spending time in Whistler. We love the community, and Ryan Beattie has had a second home in Whistler for almost 20 years. Personally, I love to ski, golf, and for a little fun fact, attended the Stan Smeel Hockey School back in the 90s. Next slide, please. We can't speak about BD as a company without highlighting our company ethos and community responsibility. Led by Ryan and the BD family's incredible approach to philanthropy, over 100 million has been raised or donated to various important causes such as SFU University, hospitals, schools, and many, many volunteer hours to important organizations. This ethos instilled by Ryan has prompted an employee-led program called BD Cares, where we have donated over 3,500 hours to various important programs, including but not limited to the Ronald McDonald House, Plenty of Plates, Douglas Lake Elementary, and many others. Next slide, please. Additionally, Ryan established the BD Luminaries program in 2018, awarding post-secondary scholarships for promising students that have financial adversity. Since its inception, BD Luminaries has awarded over 300 scholarships to very deserving students throughout BC. In addition, the program is supported by over 200 mentors supporting the Luminaries students. Next slide, please. Building upon the initial success of the Luminaries Scholarship Program, the BD Luminaries Single Parent Awards was established in 2021 and recognizes the challenge and dreams of single parents who want to further their education and provide more opportunities for their families but are facing financial adversity. We highlight these last few initiatives because it's important to understand that BD takes an active approach to communities we work with, and are more than a developer. We care about the work we do, our relationships, partnerships, and the lasting legacy it has on these communities. Next slide, please. We'll be highlighting some of our recent BD Living projects and discussing some of the guiding principles that help drive the evolution and success of these projects. These guiding principles help to define building forms, types, public realm, uses, and architectural direction. We look forward to listening to the set of guiding principles and process the RMOW will be outlining tonight for 4500 Northlands Boulevard. And below are a few examples, I already touched on that, a few examples of our recent projects. Next slide, please. So this first project is the Kin Collection, which we launched right in the middle of COVID last fall. It's a townhome project adjacent to a future park in Royal Oak in Burnaby. And the project features a diverse housing mix targeting families with units ranging from 2, 3, and 4 bedroom units. It will be starting construction in September. Next slide, please. This is Storia, a project located along Hastings Street in Burnaby, and it's a mixed-use project featuring 39 homes and commercial space along the ground floor. We highlight this project because of it's a partnership with the Legion, where we were able to repurpose the former Legion site with larger family-oriented units, as well as build out new space for the Legion. We'll be completing the project this fall, and Legion will be opening in the early new year. Next slide, please. At the Fraser Mills Master Plan project, many of the guiding principles that the RMOW will be describing tonight can be found within this Master Plan project. Noting that the form of development is very different from what will be envisioned at 4500 Northlands Boulevard, but some of the similar guiding principles are similar. Things like electric vehicle energization, transit credits, car share, and adherence to step code as set out by the City of Coquitlam. This project will be one of the most successful master plan communities within Western Canada. With over 16 acres of the site dedicated to the city as parkland, this development fully integrates nature by daylighting creeks, creating habitat conservation areas, and establishes a connection to the Fraser River that the public can access via Riverfront Park. Next slide, please. The Station Square Master Plan was a project that was envisioned in Burnaby and guided by a set of 10 guiding principles that established the master plan and has since delivered over 1,800 homes over a 16-year development period. In addition, significant amounts of retail, restaurants, and office space have been delivered in this mixed-use master plan and has created a neighborhood close to restaurants, transit, and people's home, creating a sustainable mixed-use neighborhood. Next slide, please. And we also want to highlight Crown. The Crown project emphasized a creative partnership, and an opportunity to work with BC Housing, the City of Coquitlam, and YWCA. The project added 2 and 3 bedroom family-focused townhomes for single mothers living in Coquitlam for the YWCA. This project went on to win a UDI award and was the first of a few projects we have underway with the YWCA and BC Housing. We're very proud of this project, and importantly, proud of the relationships that we built with both YWCA and BC Housing.
Next slide, please. On a non-residential flavor, BD was involved in the development and construction of the new Met flagship store in Vancouver. Designed to a LEED gold standard, this project has several integrated and innovative climate action policies to construction practice and renewable energy. One of the coolest ones I like to highlight all the time is the roof was built, the roof of this building captures rainwater, funnels it to an underground cistern that provides up to 80% of the water used for flushing toilets. Pretty cool project. And if you're ever downtown in Vancouver, this site's located at Quebec and 2nd. Feel free to get in there. There's good ski and snowboard gear in there, so, and biking gear, but definitely a big project that we're proud of. Next slide, please. And another partnership, Abcelera, this project found in Mount Pleasant. Abcelera is a technology company that's developed antibody therapies with pharmaceutical partners around the world. BD will be involved in building the state-of-the-art facility for their technology campus in Mount Pleasant in Vancouver. Next slide, please. And what we're all here for today to talk about is Whistler, 4500 Northlands. This is one of the nicest photos I've seen in a while. It captures a lot of the village, and you can really see our site, which is that little barren strip of land there, is kind of a missing link in the fabric of Whistler. And we are looking forward to working with the community and the RMOW to bring something exciting to the site. I hope you had a chance to see a quick glimpse of the projects that we presented today. Many of these projects are in alignment with the OCP principles and the guiding principles that will be established by the RMW a little bit later on today. Next slide, please. So BD, as we touched on, has a very big company ethos to get involved into the community. One of the so what we wanted to highlight today was our involvement in the Whistler for the past few years. BD has been involved in the community for some time. Many of our staff, as Curtis highlighted, have community residences up there, and the community holds a special place in our company. Our investment into the Whistler Lodge Hostel, which was awarded 2020 TripAdvisor's Traveler's Choice Award, has been a great success. Thanks to Kylie and her team for at the lodge for all their hard work. BD is also a member of the Whistler Chamber of Commerce and a proud supporter of their Excellence Awards. They're also involved with the O'Dane Art Museum, recently sponsoring the successful Illuminate Gala. I think I still have my ice sculpture in my freezer. In addition, we are proud sponsors of the Grand Fondo. We really hope to see that event take shape, if not this year, the following year. We were a big proponent of that. Lastly, if you haven't checked it already, please do. We're proud to have partnered with the Whistler Farmers Market to bring this great community event to our site. Thanks to Bree and your team for doing an awesome job given COVID-19. Next slide, please. As we embark on our process and get community feedback, we listed together a preliminary project team that we're pretty proud of and have a lot of experience in Whistler. Our team is made up of highly experienced consultants, and the team includes RWA Architects, BHA Architecture, Gauthier Landscape Architects, Bromley Projects, Webster Engineering, McElhaney, Pottinger Bird Community Relations, Keystone Environmental, and Sterling Geoscience. Our comprehensive design team has worked on the following projects notable to Whistler: Portsman House, Four Seasons Hotel and Residences, Blackcomb Gatehouse, 308 Athletes Lodge, The Falls, Baxter Creek Subdivision, Red Sky Townhomes, Cadowin Access Road and Subdivision, Nita Lake Lodge Subdivision and Employee Housing, Stonebridge Subdivision, the Scandinave Spa, Riverside Campground Phase 2, Bear Ridge Townhomes, Treetop Subdivisions, Nesters, Prison Lands Subdivision, Alta Lake Road, and Checkmas Crossing Phase 2. We put together a team that had a lot of experience for us to know what is important to the city and what is important to the community. And we're really happy that about our collection of consultants. Lastly, we look forward to working with the RMOW and are excited to get going. Can't wait. Just a quick shout out. Thank you to the RMOW for all your help and commitment to moving this project along and setting up the event today. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
So just before the RMOW team jump in to present more about the project. We just wanted to speak to what the next 30 minutes are going to look like and some of the guidelines around the rest of that will guide how we engage in the rest of this meeting. So for about the next 20 minutes, we'll get a presentation from the RMOW about as you see the outline here on this slide. And during that time, if you have any clarifying questions about what is being presented about the project and about what we're talking about, you can send me, Brenna Atnikov, a chat directly, and I'm going to be tracking all of the questions that we get. And then working with Jesse in a bit of a short 10-minute panel conversation to get those questions answered. So as the team is presenting, if there's anything you don't understand, then please ask questions and we'll make sure that we have about 10 minutes to provide clarifying comments. And then we'll be going into breakout groups, which we will describe those when we're closer to the time. But both in the questions that you ask and in the breakout groups, we're going to make a request for 4 guidelines that we all abide by in those conversations. And so the first is to be considerate of others and the information, points of view, and ideas that are being shared. So the purpose of tonight's conversation is to be able to share our perspective and experience and to be curious and learn about those of others. We're not trying to debate or agree or disagree on anything, but rather just hear the broad set of input and experiences there are. So we invite folks to be considerate of what others are saying, to allow others the opportunity to share. So please be mindful of, especially your small groups, how long you're speaking for so that other people have time to share their experiences as well. We invite you to provide constructive input. So really sort of, juicy insights and information that the team can take away and really think about and incorporate into the work going forward. And then finally, both in the questions that you'll pose and in the conversations, to use respectful language that invite everybody to feel comfortable sharing what it is they want to share. So with that, again, feel free to send me questions through the chat function over the next 20 minutes of presentation, and then we will have a chance to get to some of those questions. So back over to the RMOW team.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm John Chapman. I'm the Manager of Planning Projects here at the RMOW, and thank you so much for joining us this evening. Just a brief overview of the event tonight. We'll talk about the site context and development history, the planning process that's required for a rezoning. We'll talk about the current zoning and regulations on the land now. And then importantly, the bulk of the presentation is going to be about the policy framework and draft guiding principles for this site. The draft guiding principles, which we'll look for your input on and which will help guide the rezoning application and review process. We'll try and get through this presentation quickly and move into the small group conversations. Right now, though, I'd like to introduce Tracy Napier. Tracy is the planner who will be managing this file and is going to give a description of the site and context. So Tracy, over to you now.
Great, thank you, John. Yep, good evening, everybody. I'm Tracy Napier. I'm a planner here at the RMOW, and I'm very excited to be here tonight to share some information about this project and mostly to hear your thoughts about this exceptional opportunity we have for Whistler to think about this site and think about how we want to evolve, what our collective priorities are, how this can advance other policies like the climate big moves in our OCP, and really what the look and feel of this next step will be in our development. Next slide, please. So as we've seen already, this is a large undeveloped site that really represents a significant piece of the puzzle in the Whistler Village core. We can see here it's for reference, it's facing south. We can see the mountains in the distance in the background. That's Highway 99, lower right of the image. In the foreground are the townhomes at Montebello. If we had, oh, here we go. Yeah, near, just to the south of the site is Marketplace. A little further south of the site is the Village Gondola Base. And then of course to the southeast is the Upper Village and the Blackcomb Gondola Base. Next slide, please. So switching perspectives a bit to a traditional map view, now north is at the top. We can see the site is shaded in yellow at the center of this image, and it's just north of the Village North. There's a portion of land that's also held by the applicant that is east of Blackcomb Way. It's shown in red shading in this image, and it's not part of the project site, and it's not under consideration for development. It will remain as it is, as a forested wetland area with walking trails, etc. The project site is made up of the main parcel in yellow at 4500 Northlands, and there's a smaller associated parcel at the northeast accessed through Settebello Drive. We collectively refer to these as 4500 Northlands. The site is largely undeveloped with the exception of the existing tennis facilities. It's about 5 hectares in site, which is about half of the total area of the Village North. And it's about a 15-minute walk from this site to the Whistler Gondola base. Next slide, please. So we can see here that the adjacent land uses include townhomes and multifamily residential uses to the north, the east, and the south, and a single-family dwelling and a highway on the west side of the site. Also to the south is the connection to the Village North neighborhood with its retail, restaurants, services, accommodations, healthcare facilities, and also arts venues such as Olympic Plaza and the O'Dane Art Museum, as well as the Public Library and the Whistler Museum. And we can really get the feel here for how this site is an extension of the village. Next slide is over to John.
Thanks, Tracy. So development on this site was first contemplated more than 30 years ago. In the mid-1980s, the municipality issued a request for proposals looking for new development to help evolve Whistler into an all-seasons resort. The chosen proposal was for a golf and tennis themed resort, which some of you might remember that tennis superstar Bjorn Borg was attached to it. This was never built, however. Eventually, a new proposal was brought forward for a development based around a hotel and convention center in the 1990s. This proposal is what established the zoning that exists on the land now, but again, this development did not move forward. More recently, a third proposal for a primarily residential development was brought forward in the early 2000s. It proceeded into rezoning, but it was abandoned before the zoning was adopted. Next slide. So this is the 1990s proposal. And next slide again, Kristen. Thank you. So this is a photo of the site as it is now. Again, it's remained largely undeveloped, apart from the tennis facilities as well. This year, the site is hosting the farmers market. Tracy, back over to you for an overview of the rezoning process.
Great, thanks, John. And next slide, please. So this rezoning application was initiated by the new property owner that we've met earlier. There's been pre-application process and discussions with them, and we expect to have a complex site rezoning application submitted soon. And based on the scope of the proposed development, council authorized this enhanced process that we're undertaking to guide the rezoning process. Next slide, please. So at the top of this slide, we can see the standard rezoning process from an inquiry through a staff analysis process and ultimately a public hearing and a council vote. And this enhanced process that we're in adds early engagement. So at phase 1, it's to set clear expectations, develop a common understanding of the process and the input opportunities, and to establish the guiding principles. It includes multiple touch points with council and advisory committees and stakeholders, as well as community engagement opportunities like this open house, as well as questionnaires and our website and other sources of information. Phase 2 is about design concepts. So it's an iterative time between staff and the proponent. And we'll ultimately arrive with high-level design concepts that will be presented to the public for engagement and feedback and council consideration as well. At that point, we'd be seeking feedback on the alignment of the design concepts with the principles that were established in this phase. And then in phase 3, it would be a direction to proceed from council and proceeding with drafting bylaws. So that would be following internal review and an integration of the community feedback from this process. Preferred concepts would be presented for consideration by council and feedback from the community, and ultimately leading to drafting bylaws and legal agreements as per a standard rezoning process. And so we are here in the process in phase 1, and we anticipate that process will be wrapped up by winter, summer of 2022. Or yeah, between winter and summer of 2022 is phase 3. Next slide, please. So really, we're at the beginning of a planning process that will involve multiple opportunities for community input through each of the phases. Next slide. And so far in phase 1, the early engagement time, we have in March presented to council the enhanced planning process and gained council support to pursue it. In April and May, we went to municipal advisory committees, and at the beginning of June, back to council to receive an update on this process so far. We're here at the community open house, and following this evening, there's a 30-day community review and input period with information available through our website. There'll be an online questionnaire that's launched after this open house, and also notice boards, poster boards available on our website and throughout the neighborhood. We will be reaching out to the Squamish Nation and the Lillooet Nation as well, and we'll be undertaking ongoing outreach with municipal committees. Next slide, please. And that's over to John.
Thanks, Tracy. So the existing zoning was established in the late 90s for this proposal based around a hotel and convention center. The zoning established permitted uses as well as maximum building heights and maximum density in terms of floor area. At the time, the uses proposed and approved were for the main parcel as a zone primarily for tourist accommodation and indoor and outdoor recreation, with that small little parcel at the top primarily for employee housing. This rezoning also established the conservation use on that parcel outlined in a dotted red line to the east of Blackcomb Way. So that's what we call rural resource 4 zoning, and conservation covenant is placed on that land. As Tracy mentioned, no development is proposed for that. Next slide, please. So turning to what the development might look like on this site, it offers some exciting design opportunities, and this enhanced rezoning and community engagement process will create numerous opportunities for the community and for council to provide input on the urban design and architecture of the site. As you see on this slide, Whistler's built form has traditionally reflected a sort of mountain style with steep peaked roofs, large timbers, exposed stone, stucco cladding, and a muted palette. Next slide. More recently, we've seen kind of a contemporary architectural style with a boxier look, flat and single pitch roofs, and different cladding materials such as metal and concrete fiberboard. Next slide. The design and development on this site presents an exciting opportunity to set the tone for the future form and character of Whistler in the village. So certainly an opportunity to think about that when we get into the breakout rooms. Tracy, I think it's back over to you now for the most important part of the presentation, the discussion on policy.
Thanks, John. We can go to the next slide, please. So in this section, I'll outline the existing policy framework that has shaped the development of the draft guiding principles and is the policy that informs the analysis of any application to redevelop this site. It's through a review of these plans, strategies, and council policies that staff have developed these draft guiding principles that we're presenting for your consideration today. So that's considering the official community plan, the climate action big move strategy, as well as the green building, employee housing, and community engagement policies. Next slide, please. So our official community plan contains the community vision. and it articulates high-level aspirations for our resort community. The vision is that we're a place where community thrives, nature is protected, and guests are inspired. The vision's further elaborated in the form of vision characteristics that fall into 4 categories. And they're statements of what must exist in Whistler for us to be successful in the long run. Namely, our sense of place is derived from our mountain culture. It's enhanced by our rich heritage of culture and culture of the Squamish Nation and the Lillooet Nation. Our natural areas are never far from reach and are core to our mountain culture. We balance community and resort life with an awareness of the carrying capacity of our environments, and community spaces are full of energy and frequent celebration, and natural spaces are maintained for solitude and rejuvenation. We respect and protect our natural environment, understanding that natural areas are the foundation of our community, economy, and overall human health. We access nature in a responsible way. We seek to conserve natural resources and to eliminate GHG emissions and build resilience to climate change. We enjoy high quality of life that's inclusive of all residents and visitors. People are treated with respect and care. We feel high levels of trust and security and connectedness, and we're able to meaningfully participate in community decisions and have open and honest dialogues. Our economy is strong, diverse, and resilient. Whistler offers diverse and authentic visitor experiences and recognizes that economic activity depends on respect for the natural environment, our mountain culture, and the people of the community. Locally owned businesses thrive and innovate. Investment and renewal in Whistler's infrastructure supports livelihoods, quality of life, and visitor experience. Next slide, please. The OCP further articulates the high-level vision and these aspirations for the community in the form of goals, objectives, and policies with respect to growth management, land use and development, economic viability in the natural environment, healthy and safe communities, recreation and leisure, climate action, and energy and transportation. Next slide, please. Our OCP also establishes land use designations for all lands within the municipality. The designations set out the specific uses that are supported in that designation. And I note that the uses that are supported under the OCP designation are not guaranteed permitted uses. That gets established under the zoning bylaw and that sets out the permitted uses and densities. But the OCP provides that guidance for the types of uses that would be supported in that particular designation. And any zoning amendments must be consistent with the land use designation. Project site land use designations support a wide range of uses. Are essentially they're community commercial, and they include accommodation for residents, visitors, and employees, commercial and institutional uses, community facilities, park recreation, and leisure areas are all uses that are supported under that designation. Next slide, please. Over to John.
Thanks, Tracy. After the official community plan, another key document is the Climate Action Big Move Strategy, which was developed in response to the climate crisis. This strategy focuses on transportation, buildings, and waste, and is ultimately about reducing greenhouse gas emissions. The development site here is very well positioned to implement strategies to achieve a number of the big moves. It's centrally located, has near proximity to services and amenities, and is accessible by public transit. Through the rezoning process, the RMOW will look at specific initiatives to achieve lower carbon emissions and lower carbon consumption, things such as progressive building code requirements, transit and transportation improvements, electric vehicle infrastructure, and innovative approaches to parking. There are other municipal policies that will be useful in guiding the rezoning, such as the green building policy, the employee housing policy, and the community engagement policy. Tracy, back to you and the next slide to talk about how these policies can create a framework for the rezoning.
Thanks, John. So yes, exactly. The policies that we just reviewed in the last section collectively have informed the review and the analysis of the possible redevelopment of this site. And it's through a close reading of these in the OCP that staff have proposed 6 high-level guiding principles that establish a framework for that review and analysis. In this section, I will present the draft principles along with their key components to give some clarity and context. And following this presentation, as we've covered, we'll be moving into breakout rooms, which will give you all the time to consider these and let us know what you think about them. Also, just want to note that we are presenting these as drafts. We're asking if they're realistic, if they're comprehensive and reflective of the OCP and the Big Moves Climate Action Plan. So if there's something we've missed, let us know. The input and feedback that we receive through this engagement process will inform the further refinement of the draft principles and the framework. Next slide, please. Also, maybe late in the game, but when we say guiding principles, we mean principles that draw on key community planning and development policies to create a framework for guiding and assessing design concepts. And they keep us focused on implementing established policies. In this context, in the context of this project, rather, they're the first step of the process, and they're used to inform the planning and design alternatives moving forward. So you could say they act as goalposts that give us somewhere to aim. They're, oh, next slide, please, sorry. They're a bit of a rudder that help keep us on course as we move through the process. And they're a bit of a lens through which we consider the decisions and analysis. And ultimately, they're a measuring stick that we can use to gauge our success. So I'll present each draft principle with a brief statement to give the context and clarity. And I'll also present a number of questions and statements that are meant to inspire thought and fuel discussion in the breakout rooms when completing the questionnaire. Draft guiding principle 1 is that we balance resort and community needs. Whistler's ongoing evolution as a balanced resort community includes commitments to supporting growth management measures, while also recognizing that the development and improvement of resort recreation and visitation are major contributors to Whistler's success. We support a progressive, sustainable tourism-based economy while protecting the natural environment and reinforcing Whistler's mountain community character. Innovation, renewal, and reinvestment in infrastructure and offerings support livelihoods, quality of life, and the visitor experience collectively. The key topics and questions that both inform the development of these principles, as well as will continue to frame the process moving forward, include the recognition of the critical importance of the resort and tourism economy to Whistler, the importance of the balance and of the interrelationships between visitor capacities and experience with demands on amenities, services, and infrastructure. And really, we're seeking to better understand how this development can serve the needs of the community and the resort, and what features will contribute to a thriving community. Next slide, please. Draft guiding principle 2 is that we strengthen our sense of place and social connections. New development in Whistler will promote and encourage and build a sense of place and a sense of belonging. While each of Whistler's neighborhoods are distinct and unique, they weave together to form a resilient, cohesive community, and that supports a high quality of life and fosters connections within the community and with visitors. The key topics and questions that inform this and that will continue to inform the process are a recognition of the importance of the sense of place and belonging that is safe and welcoming and inclusive, and that fosters social connection and community spaces that are vibrant, inclusive, and accessible to enable social connections. And the importance of a diverse offering of sports and recreation opportunities as well. We'll be asking what features are essential to make a neighborhood great in Whistler. What activities and features are missing from the Village Core neighborhood, and how can this site augment what's already here? Next slide, please. Draft guiding principle 3 is to provide diverse housing opportunities. Housing should accommodate a range of incomes and needs, including a mixture of market and employee housing, and space that's suitable for all ages and abilities. Whistler residents have access to a continuum of affordable housing types, enabling people to live and work in the community through a progression of life stages. The key topics on this guiding principle that informed it and will frame it moving forward are the recognition of the diversity of housing across affordability, size, tenure, scale, and built form, and considering compact and efficient site design and building design, while also considering livability, accessibility, and residential amenities and facilities. We'll be looking to better understand what built forms and building scale is appropriate at this site and how it can best contribute to meeting community housing needs. Next slide, please. Draft guiding principle 4 is to enhance connectivity and mobility. Whistler's transportation system is integral to the livability of Whistler. It moves people and goods efficiently, minimizing greenhouse gas emissions and connecting neighborhoods. Excellent transportation infrastructure supports residents and visitors in walking, cycling, or taking transit, which all contribute to healthy lifestyles, lower GHG emissions, and keeping people connected. The key topics and questions that inform this and will frame it moving forward are to consider the importance and opportunity of connectivity and the proximity to the village, transit infrastructure, site design, and the possibility of car-free living. We'll further explore the opportunities and barriers for connections to the village and the ways that development at this site can contribute to moving beyond the car and supporting more active transport and transit usage. Next slide, please. Draft guiding principle 5 is to accelerate climate action and address resource use. In 2020, we adopted the Climate Action Big Move strategy and confirmed our desire to take bold action on climate adaptation and mitigation. The official community plan describes a shared future with lowered energy use, fewer emissions, and decreased auto dependence, and more efficient buildings. Development on this site presents a great opportunity to set a high bar for sustainable low carbon development. The key topics that inform this and will frame it moving forward include energy efficiency, compact site design, connectivity, waste reduction, and water conservation. And we seek to further explore how development at the site can accelerate climate action, reduce GHG emissions, and lower our energy use. Next slide, please. And draft guiding principle 6 is integrate and enhance nature. One of Whistler's greatest community assets is the natural environment. A healthy natural environment not only provides a significant benefit for tourism, recreation, and our quality of life, but it also supports local wildlife and ecosystems. Residents and visitors continue to understand the need to protect its inherent value. The key topics that inform this and will frame it moving forward are the consideration of the importance of habitat management and conservation and restoration, of improving air and water quality and minimizing light pollution while maximizing views and solar access. We'll continue to explore what habitat and biodiversity can be preserved or enhanced on this site and what open spaces on the site should look like. And with that, I will turn it over to Brenna, and I think we'll enter into our discussion groups.
Thanks so much, Tracy. So we'll start first with some clarifying questions. As mentioned earlier, if there's anything that was presented by the RMOW team that you didn't understand, that would help to understand better so that when we go into the breakout groups, you can give really useful feedback. Those are the kind of questions that we're looking for now. And as you see on the screen, feel free to find me in the list of participants and send me a direct message in the chat function, and I'll track those questions. In the meantime, several people did send in questions when they registered for the event, and so we'll start with those. And I'll direct them towards Jesse, GM of Resort Experience, and either he'll be able to answer them directly or he'll know who to send them towards. So the first question, Jesse, there were quite a few of them in the pre-questions, if you will, around the site and if how recreation, all kinds of recreation, including tennis and pickleball and family-friendly multi-use recreation purposes, how that's going to be incorporated into the development, and how is that driving the work that's happening right now?
Sure, thanks, Brenna. That's a great question. So I think sports and recreation are obviously fundamental core aspects of our society here in Whistler. I think they're the reason many of us live here, to enjoy the great facilities we have, the mountain, the outdoors, and a really active culture in general. And so I think sports and rec facilities throughout the municipality continue to be really important to serve our population and to serve our guests when they come here. So we will be contemplating the broad set of needs that the community has, looking at balancing things like housing and recreation, and other objectives we have as a community. Those might be childcare or any other set of priorities we have. And so our task over the next many months will be to understand what's that right balance. So where does recreation or facilities fit onto the site? If so, what does that look like? How does that impact the form of development? And what are the other needs that the community is interested in seeing here? So I think that's a great question, and we will definitely be having this discussion with some of our core stakeholders. One of that is the Rec Leisure Advisory Committee, and we're looking forward to having that conversation in the coming days.
Great. Thanks, Jesse. Speaking of other needs, there were also quite a few questions about housing and different kinds of housing. So housing for seniors and people who are retiring, employee housing, affordable housing. So how is the idea of housing and lodging being thought about with this site?
Yeah, great question. So I think, to me, this is one of the amazing opportunities of this site. This is centrally located. It is inherently one of the most walkable sites in Whistler. It is a great place to add units, to have a complete community that can walk to services, that can walk to the village, that is well served by transit, and has a feeling of extending the village into this site. So I think housing here is going to look diverse, and I think it should be diverse. It should incorporate aspects of affordability. It should look at the needs of our community and where we have gaps in housing, of which we know we certainly do. And it will likely have a market component as well that will support that affordable housing to be built on this site. So to me, this is a project that is going to deliver housing for the community, and I think that is very exciting. Great.
A bit of a follow-up question, I think, maybe being a non-Whistlerite, an outsider. There's a question, and I think is a follow-up in terms of the talking about recreation and these kinds of amenities. But there's been also some questions in reference to, so I'll just quote, an amenity due to the community as a result of this development, namely a world-class tennis and racket facility. So I don't know if you want to expand a bit on that related to the discussion around recreation amenities.
Sure. So this is getting into some of the technical nature of this site, and this is definitely going to be the focus of later rounds of consultation. And so staff will be working with the applicant to determine what is the base value of the site, what was previously proposed, developed, delivered, what was not delivered, and then determine what that means for a future on this site. And so those will all be factored in. Yeah, I think that's a big question here, is determining the value and what is the returned value to the community. And is that through recreation, through housing, through childcare, through many of the great things that we need as a community.
Great. Maybe just one or two more in the interest of getting to the breakout groups. There was also a question around how might this site be used as a super innovative greenhouse, and what are the options for food production, local food production in Whistler?
I can see Louisa smiling here on camera, excited about that question. I think there is going to be a component of this site that has an open space character. We do know there are natural features on the site that we hope to be able to enhance. We do have the amenity stream that connects through here out to the Montebello wetlands. And I think there's some really exciting potential on this site. And that's actually one of the things we want to elicit from the group is, what is the big idea? What is the sort of energy of the site that makes it exciting? What is the theme, and how does that become knit into our community? So there are lots of other large site planning policies in other communities, and those do look at things like food production and community gardens and green roofs and all of the sort of complementary components that make for a sustainable and animating and engaging community space.
Great. And then maybe the Well, one question, maybe a bit longer answer, and then I think we have one that might be a quick answer. So a few questions about bed unit count, and what can you tell us about the bed unit count?
Yeah, so back to the more technical pieces on this site, there is a predetermined bed count ascribed to this site currently. That will be one of the factors that is considered as we move forward. That is provides some sort of baseline. When we talked about goalposts earlier, that's one reference point for us to think about the scale of development that is possible on this site. We'll also be looking at sort of the density that's associated with bed units, and then all of the other components that go along with bed units in terms of amenities and the other types of spaces we want to see on this site. So yes, bed units will be one goalpost we'll be referencing frequently to talk about the potential here.
Great, thanks. And then lastly, before we prepare for breakout groups, there's one last question around will solar energy, utilizing solar energy be mandated, required? Is it still up for discussion?
That is definitely up for discussion. And I think that's, again, another exciting opportunity here. There is actually great solar exposure to this site, centrally located in the valley. I think there is great potential there for sustainable measures like solar power. So we will be looking at policies and guidelines around standards for EV charging. It could include solar power. Those are all comments that we're hoping to hear from the community tonight of what should guide this site.
Great. Thanks, Jesse. All right, excellent. So just before we break into the breakout groups, I'm going to throw to Nicholas. Just for final comments from Blvd. I think you're on mute there.
Hi, everybody. So we just wanted to say thank you for the time today. And I hope you guys gained, the community and everybody gained a little bit more information. You know, Curtis and I are very approachable. So if you see us around town, obviously come and say hi. Don't be scared and shy. We're happy to answer the questions that you guys may have. Lastly, and it's an important one, where we might be is on the Whistler Rocket Club. So we just wanted to give a shout out to Jamie Grant and his team, who have done a wonderful job in turning that facility around with the addition of combo kids camps, cafe and bar, and other fun activities. So yeah, look forward to meeting everybody and getting going. And yeah, come say hi if you see us around.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks for joining us. All right, so we are going to very shortly put people into small breakout groups to give you an opportunity to give feedback on the guiding principles that Tracy and other members of the team had shared with you. So as mentioned, these are they're draft, they're a starting point, they're informed by all the various policies and guidelines that the Resort Municipality of Whistler has, and we want to now hear from you about how the framing of these principles is serving the project in order to set it up for success, or what might be missing. So you in a moment will be taken to breakout groups, and there is going to be at least one, if not two, RMOW team members in that room with you, and they work across the organization. So they're not going to be able to answer your technical questions about the project. They're there to facilitate and to take notes and bring whatever technical questions you might have to the appropriate folks, but they won't be able to answer them for you at this point. They really are there to facilitate and take notes. So your facilitators will give you more detailed direction as to what you'll be doing, but just know that you'll have about 25 minutes to, in the first round of conversation, discuss principles 1, 2, and 3. And they'll be up on the screen when you're in the breakout group so that you can see them. We'll take about a 5 or 7 minute break in between, and then we'll come back into new groups to discuss principles 4, 5, and 6. All right, so we'll invite Kristen, I think at this point, to send everyone to their groups and enjoy getting to know neighbors if you don't know them, and seeing people that you do know, and have a great conversation. And we'll see you back here shortly.
Is that outdoor recreation is one of the, like outdoor recreation is one of the key ways to strengthen the sense of place and to have social connections. So that was emphasized as an important part.
Great, thanks. All right, Roman.
Hi there. Also, that was something that was brought up in our group. I was in Paul's group, was strengthening the connection between the village and Nesters to the north, which I thought was a very interesting comment. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, we are going to now send you back into your groups or different groups to have a similar type of conversation just about the guiding principles 4, 5, and 6. And then when we bring you back after 25 minutes, there'll be a bit more open plenary to hear summative comments from either just the second half of your conversation or your entire conversations across the evening. So Kristen, over to you.
Thanks, Brenna. So I have done my best to reshuffle everybody. So hopefully there's some new faces in your rooms, and just bear with me. I will open them right now.
What's catching your attention from the conversations about the guiding principles? So again, what's something that somebody else said they thought, oh, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of that before, or some new co-created ideas and thinking that have emerged as you're providing feedback on these guiding principles. So you can feel free to use the, under reactions, there's an option to raise your hand, and you're welcome to click on that at the bottom of your screen so that we can see if there's anybody who would like to share what's coming up for you. Ben, please go ahead.
Yeah, we spent quite a bit of time talking about how important multi-use is in our group, and that this development and any ensuing benefits and the whole project should try and it needs to deliver to as many different groups as possible. And then we got into livability, not just for residents, but also for non-residents. And I mean, residents of the development, i.e. it shouldn't just be for the people, any benefit or any great thing about this development shouldn't just be for those that are fortuitous to either purchase or rent there. It should, all of us in Whistler, as well as the tourists, should be able to benefit from this great project.
Great, thank you, Ben. Pauline, I see your hand is up. Please go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, we had a really great conversation. A couple of things that our group talked about that I thought were really interesting. One was just the focus of the fact that there's this beautiful river that runs through this property, and really recognizing and featuring that in the design as we think about what that's going to look like, and really trying to emphasize and the connectivity of this parcel with the rest of the Whistler village. The priority, we created a pyramid in our breakout room on the transportation side, and we thought that it really needs to have accessibility at the top, then walking, then biking, then moving people around in the winter, and finally the car. So they're really focusing that. So I thought that was a really great conversation we had in our breakout room.
Wonderful, thank you. Connor.
Yeah, we were discussing with such a large lot to be developed, and some different thoughts of use, that geothermal would be a really good opportunity here for our greenhouse gas emissions and accelerated climate action.
Great. Lots of wonderful reflections and ideas. Any other observations, reflections, something that made you say, huh, that's something I hadn't thought of before? Clancy.
Someone in my group had the interesting comment, looking back at the guiding principles that helped form the village layout, including like that people could move it through it like a flow, like a stream flow, and keeping the viewpoints to key features around. Thought that was a very interesting point to add to the connectivity.
Great. Connor.
Yeah, one that I have never really seen implemented before in a municipality or city is mandating the use of a vehicle for residents in a particular building. So having that that location so centrally located to the village and basically all the amenities within walking or biking distance, is there an opportunity here to not allow residents to own a vehicle in that building?
Mm-hmm. Great, we have time for a few more. So I see Alba and then Mark and then Roger.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to speak a little bit further to what Pauline spoke. We covered all of that, but people actually talked about when you're considering the development to actually think about, you know, putting everything underground, including like being able to, you know, when big trucks come in and deliver goods, instead of having everything up top, to have everything underneath. So I thought that was kind of an interesting idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark, please go ahead.
Yeah, one thing we talked about in some of the developments we're working on now is having the parking stall as a separate identity. So you have the option when you purchase a unit not to purchase a parking stall. So it decreases the amount of parking stall, especially in a location where like this, where walking or biking is so easy. So it's good for the developer because he can sell the parking stall separately. It's good for the owner because he doesn't have to purchase the parking lot or purchase the cost of a parking lot. So that's one option to reduce the parking.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, any other reflections on the guiding principles and that conversation? Over to you, Roger.
Our group had an interesting conversation about looking ahead in the future and what are the tools, i.e. covenants, we would have to ensure this property is rejuvenated in the future, and how that funding mechanism and what, you know, how that would occur. Also further to, I think the EV conversation, you know, is there an opportunity to expand that so it's an EV car co-op opportunity? So maybe people don't in fact own cars, it's just a car co-op and that's accessible to the community. And also that notion of considering how this connects in the valley, north and south, and obviously, you know, how we further the active transportation network that we have.
Thank you so much. We'll wrap up with two last comments from John, and then we'll finish with Melissa. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, a couple of things came out. Oops, sorry. A couple of things came out of our conversation. One was that if there's a rental concept, rental inclusion, building inclusion, they should be along Highway 99 because people that are renting are temporary, and they shouldn't care as much about slightly higher noise level from the highway. And secondly, you know, pursuing or continuing Eldon Beck's basic concept of keeping all the cars out of sight and underground, and using the space between the buildings for playgrounds and, you know, courts or anything else that are just public and community amenities. That was one of the takeaways. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Melissa.
I think, yeah, in regards to the guiding principle around enhancing connectivity and mobility, there was commentary that a lot of the pedestrian connectivity in and around this area and to the north of the village really isn't working since the changes at the heliport, where some pathways were closed. So neighboring residents are seeing more trespass than they have in the past, more lost people wandering about. So really, I think the message is that the existing connectivity is not, pedestrian connectivity is not working as well as it could. So really thinking to that more, and thinking to transportation and that village shuttle, and could it even be expanded to go beyond this site, circle past Nesters, and then, you know, back to the village to pick up more people that could be in walking distance to the ski lifts.
Great, thank you. All right, to inform us about next steps and what to expect, I'll turn things back over to Tracy and John, and then we'll hear final comments from Acting Mayor Forsyth.
Thanks, Brenna. we'll just get the slideshow back up. Awesome. So yeah, just want to express our gratitude to all of you for joining us this evening. Your participation, your comments and suggestions are so important to this project. And we very much look forward to receiving more from you and engaging with you at future points as well in this process. So as part of this phase one of the whole 4500 Northlands project or process, we will keep the community review and input period open for a month. We'll be looking for more feedback from the community through a dedicated email address and through a questionnaire, which will be available by link on the project website. So you can see on the slide here, our project email address is northlands@whistler.ca. And please go ahead and visit our webpage, whistler.ca/northlands. It does work again, so does the email. The webpage will be kept up to date with project information. We'll be continuously adding answers to questions that we're receiving. We'll have materials from this open house available for you to review there. As I said, a link to the questionnaire. We'll also be looking to set up opportunities for engagement and for sharing and receiving information that are offline. We'll be hoping to use events such as the weekly farmers market, looking to occupy spaces in the municipality such as the library. Could I have the next slide, please? We'll also during this phase, we'll be reaching out and engaging with council committees and stakeholder groups. And then we'll be reporting back to council later this summer to provide a summary of what has been provided by the community. We'll be moving into the second phase, looking at design concepts in the fall. We'll be setting up additional events and opportunities, open houses and so on, looking for more participation from the community in that second phase. And then as that wraps up, we'd move into the third phase, which we'd seek direction to proceed from council and move into drafting bylaws based on a final design concept. Could I have the next slide, please? So we really hope that you'll stay in touch. This is how you can contact us. We would love to hear from you, answer questions that you might have, receive additional thoughts that might emerge tomorrow, next week, or the week after. We'll be pushing out a questionnaire that's based on what the information that you've already seen will be somewhat familiar to the breakout room groups, but just another way for folks to comment and add their thoughts. So we very much hope that you'll all fill that in. And yeah, don't hesitate to reach out to Tracy and to myself. Next slide, please. That's it from me tonight. I think I'm going to hand it back over to the CAO and to Acting Mayor Forsyth.
Okay, thank you, John. I'm gonna hand it straight to Ralph. Thank you.
It looks like we might finish this a couple of minutes early, everyone. Good work out of you guys. I would like to thank Tracy and John and Jesse for their guidance and leadership and understanding of this evening. Ginny as well for your advice and leadership. Especially, I would like to thank Kristen and Brenna for managing this ship. And a shout out to Claire, who is a new RMOW member and was facilitating our group. So welcome aboard, Claire. You were thrown into the fire right away and good work. I would be remiss if I neglected to mention my council colleagues who were all in attendance tonight. Dwayne Jackson, Jen Ford, Kathy Hewitt, Arthur DeJong, John Grills, and of course his worship, Jack Crompton, who was in and out of the meeting despite having some family obligations. I did see him around, and I wanted to offer congratulations to him. His oldest child graduated, so he's got one down, 3 to go, I think. If you will allow me one indulgence to reflect, I'm going into what will be my 10th year as a city councillor, and I can tell you in all sincerity that there is nothing so compelling as when the community articulates what is important to them. So thank you all for taking, again, what is a beautiful evening and spending it to make our town a better place. Thanks so much and have a lovely evening.